Hi, my dear friends, viewers, and new subscribers. Today I want to tell you about video games from Kazakhstan. This isn't a top list, everything will be in random order. Some of these games may already belong to other developers or publishers at the time this video was made. Alright, let's get started. Blockade 3D is a first-person shooter set in a blocky cube-style world. It's like Counter-Strike and Minecraft had a child. The game has been in early access on Steam since 2014, and yes, it's already 2026. The developer and publisher is Novalink LLC. Novalink LLC also has other games. Blockade War Stories, classic Blockade 3D, now with large-scale battlefield-like battles. War Mode is a free-to-play first-person shooter with classic Counter-Strike style gameplay. Robo Arena is a third-person multiplayer action game that lets you assemble a custom robot and fight other players. Mad Guns is a free-to-play multiplayer first-person with a polygonal style. Steampunk Tower is a tower defense game set in an alternate steampunk universe. You'll upgrade your base, purchase defensive weapons, and face a solid level of challenge. Overall, the game delivers a fantastic atmosphere and pleasing visuals. It was released on both mobile platforms and PC. The game is developed and published by Dreamgate. Top Run is a neon pixel art synthwave runner with platforming elements and VHS-style effects. The game was released on PC and PlayStation 4. It was developed by Katata Games. Son of the Sky is a 2D adventure game set in a mythological world. Players must defeat creatures from ancient legends while journeying through a world inspired by the history, everyday life, and culture of the Kazakh people. The game's visual style is based on traditional rock art, giving it a distinctive and authentic look. Mad Out is an action racing game inspired by Flat Out and Burnout Paradise. Destroy your rivals and upgrade your car as you race. A second installment was later released featuring reworked mechanics. Mad Out 2 is an online, role-play-driven open-world game inspired by Grand Theft Auto with RPG elements. The game has a strong and active player base and continues to receive regular updates. It is developed by Mad Out Games. Golden Mean is a fighting platformer with a mythological storyline. The story is centered around the sacred tree of life, Badarek, the immortal bird Samruk, and the dragon Iderhar. The player must break a cursed cycle and restore balance to the world. Ashen Knights. Foreshadow is an isometric Souls-like action game with hack and slash elements. Players take control of two heroes, switching between them and their distinct combat styles. The game is developed by Baikal Arts. They also released a prologue titled Ashen Knights: One Passage. Moonrider is another title from Baikal Arts. It's a road adventure game that takes players on a journey through beautiful landscapes and deep into the soul. Get achievements for achievements lives up to its name. The entire goal of the game is to earn achievements. It features a psychedelic pixel art style and is developed by D-Novel. These developers have also released around 86 games across indie, casual adventure, and action genres. You can see a list of these titles on screen. I didn't go into detail on each one otherwise. This video would have been way too long. Astana Racer is a street racing game inspired by the Need for Speed Underground series. Players race through the streets of Astana, the capital of Kazakhstan. Created in 2009 by the indie studio Astana Software, the game was made purely out of passion and is often considered the starting point of Kazakhstan's game development scene. Car Parking Multiplayer is a parking simulation game with a wide range of features, including car customization and in-game voice chat. It also has a sequel with improved graphics. The game is developed by Oljas Game. They also have several other titles, including CPM Traffic Racer, CPM Garage, and Next Gen Truck Simulator. Jet X Edition is a shooter racing game An ideal mix of arcade racing and arena combat. Players can battle against other players or AI opponents. The game was previously available on VR devices and is developed by Singularity Lab. Grand Mobile. Once again, we're looking at a Grand Theft Auto-style roleplay clone. It's a large-scale online game with an open world where players start from scratch and decide for themselves who they want to become. The developers are Dynamic Technologies. Fuck You Witch is an indie horror game with elements of humor and local folklore. The player has to drive away a witch, and to do that, they must shout insults into the microphone. The game was developed by Besh Barmak Games. These developers also have several other games. Paranormal Torment, a first-person psychological horror inspired by the cult classic PT Videophobia, a first-person horror game with puzzle elements where the player must solve various riddles. Clink, a horror game about schizophrenia, following a lonely woman with a dark past. Nightmares and reality become intertwined. 1059, a horror game in which the main character wakes up in their childhood home. A nightmare surrounds them. Strange things appear everywhere, and they must escape the house. Writer, Chapter 1. A horror game about a writer who, while fleeing from a monster in a mysterious place, gathers material for a new book filled with sinister secrets. Snap, Snap, a horror game about a journalist investigating a crime. After returning home from the morgue, he realizes that his house has changed for the worse, and something is stalking the halls. Q are Dead, a horror game with puzzle elements. A smartphone helps solve the mysteries, collecting herbs for a potion to save a girl, while hiding from a monster to survive. Need for Scream, a horror game about a blogger who travels to a village, discovers it's cursed, and decides to record everything for his subscribers. 12 Sticks, or a cooperative hide-and-seek horror game inspired by Dead by Daylight. The game is currently in early access. Dina's Stories is a role-playing game designed for preschool education. It features puzzle elements, quests, and point-and-click gameplay. At the center of the story is a book about the ancient history of the Kazakh people. The game was released in 2008 and developed by Sanasoft. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any gameplay footage or even the game itself. Tamerlane Apocalypse is a first-person shooter. The story revolves around the outbreak of World War III, where zombie soldiers are used as weapons. The player must save humanity. Development began in 2007 by the studio Man Shimkent Games, but as far as I can tell, the game was never officially released. Once again, I couldn't find any gameplay footage or even the game itself. Dead Dust is a pixel art top-down action shooter set in the Wild West. It was developed by Huge Pixel. They also have the following games to the basement before: Reposition Defense, Lord of the Click 5, Alien Cat Story, Exodus Creepy Time, Cosmic Mirage, Bestial Reception, Deathly Dangerous, Words of Wisdom, Old Tunnel, Super Geisha Neon, Roadstones, Gav Gav Odyssey, Circus Pocus, Toe Domination, Earth Marines, Restless Night, Crossbow Crusade, Glittering Sword, Rusty Gun, Bone Marrow, More Dark, Chop is Dish. World of Stickman Classic RTS is a real-time strategy game featuring Stickman characters. Players gather resources, build bases, and recruit armies. At the moment, the game includes 3 factions: Romans, Vikings, and Egyptians. The game hasn't been released yet, but a demo is available. It's being developed by Sergei Mezhikov. He also has the following games: Drive or Die, Stickmin World Battle. Wartide Worlds was featured on Kickstarter, but the campaign didn't reach its funding goal. Here's a direct quote from the Kickstarter page: "A game for everyone." This is reflected in a blend of several genres, RTS, FPS, and RPG, as well as the developers' strong passion for creating an interesting and engaging free-to-play MMO. Travel through all historical eras, starting in ancient times as a caveman and ending as rulers of the galaxy, developing a wide range of skills through strategic and tactical approaches. Crast is an online first-person survival shooter. It's a fairly typical example of the genre with rather weak graphics. The developer is Kazakh Games Studio. Izid is a 2D pixel art RPG based on legends of Turkic mythology. The player explores a mystical world, fights monsters using music, and searches for a missing sister. The developer is Umai Gaming. She Sees Reg is an interactive thriller video featuring live-action actors. The main character is a female detective investigating a series of murders in a nightclub. The developer is Rhino Tales. The same developer is also working on Critical Shift, a hardcore turn-based tactical game with RPG elements and an atmosphere of scientific mysticism. The release date hasn't been announced yet, but you can apply, most likely for testing. Long Way is an arcade driving simulator with a wide variety of vehicles. It features dynamic day-night cycles and changing weather conditions, along with exploration of different locations. There may also be an option to play online with friends. The developer is Eagle Games. Toilet Chronicles is a horror game with elements of humor. The main character is trapped in a public restroom and must make some very questionable choices. The developer is Madi Abdikarimov. He also has another game, Stuck in a Well with a Frog, where the game's character is trapped in a well with a frog. The game is set to be released soon. Step Rider is an educational runner game designed to help players learn the Kazakh language. You collect letters and form words as you play. The developer is LLP United Kingdom. Will to Live Online is an MMORPG shooter set in a post-apocalyptic world inspired by Stalker. The game features anomalies, artifacts, and mutants. The developer is AlphaSoft LLC. Eternal Evil is a first-person survival horror game. It's conceptually inspired by Resident Evil and Silent Hill. A small town is overrun by monsters, and the player must uncover the reason behind their appearance while solving puzzles along the way. The developer is Honor Games. The same developer also has survival and horror, Hangman's Rope, a horror shooter set in the Wild West. Yar the Forgotten Sanctum is a third-person open-world adventure game inspired by Slavic mythology and folklore. Eldrimar, a dark fantasy game mixing action, RPG, adventure, and survival horror elements. Kegan is a low-poly HTML5 game centered on the culture and values of the Kazakh people. Developed Games Biaisha. K-TED is an educational game focused on the history of Kazakhstan. Players explore different locations and interact with historical figures along the way. Developed TR33NTX. Discover and Learn. The Sacred Geography of Kazakhstan is an educational puzzle game built around brain teasers and problem-solving challenges. Developed Trevian XYZ. Belim Odyssey is an educational game that immerses players in the rich world of Kazakh culture and knowledge. It blends modern digital technology with traditional values, creating an interactive and engaging learning experience for school students. The developer is Kabdikarimov Kuanish. This developer also has other games. Textagari. The game lets players virtually explore the streets, squares, and other notable locations of Zaisan, offering a digital way to get to know the city. Zaisan City. Essentially a similar concept to Textagari, but with added features such as vehicles and an online mode. Barsack Against Corruption is a 2D platformer developed by a 13-year-old student. In the story, a brave Barsack takes on corruption. Tuzak is a visual novel set in 1715 on the territory of present-day Kazakhstan. Against the backdrop of the conflict with Dzungaria, the story follows a young woman caught in the turmoil of that era. The game is currently in early access. The developers are Uaquet Machine and 7 Dots. Quora Alpha 1.0 appears to be a shooter with survival elements. The game is still in the alpha stage, meaning it's a very early and unfinished build. The developer is Nizan. Toktama is a mobile game where you run away from meme characters from Kazakhstan while collecting keys along the way. The game is developed by Superman's Ltd. Kazakhstan Battle for Sariga is a simple 3D first-person shooter developed by MeCrown. Random Rush Tower Defense TD is a strategic tower defense game where, as usual for the genre, you build up your defenses and protect your base. The game is developed by Dala Dev. Annie's Kazakhstan is a 2D platformer that instantly reminded me of Comic Zone, especially with its comic book style and movement between panels. The game was developed by Orazbekov, Kadirbekov, and Oreke13. Bip House Ride is a game created by TikTok bloggers centered around a TikTok house. You pick your favorite creator and play as them, collecting crystals and other items to unlock new characters. Kazakhstan RPG is a simple adventure-style RPG that reminded me of the early The Legend of Zelda games. It's developed by Amniamnfil. Book of Turks is an interactive story game about a boy raised by a she-wolf, blending legend with history in an educational format. Developed by Enz Arkley, LOL3S, and G3RYY. Arelsk is a story-driven adventure RPG featuring puzzles, branching dialogues, and choices that directly affect the narrative. The game is developed by Ace_Jace. Escape from Kazakhstan is a hardcore, tongue-in-cheek first-person runner where you play as the one and only prisoner trying to escape. The game is developed by Paintic. Dual Souls: The Last Bear is an old-school 2D fighting game inspired by classic arcade brawlers. It delivers fast-paced, dynamic combat with online multiplayer. The game is developed by Stun Games. Reverb is a biopunk third-person stealth shooter featuring a PvPvE multiplayer mode. Players develop and upgrade their shelter, level up their character, and wield living bioengineered weapons. The game is developed by Echo Games Lab. Kazakh Son of the Sun is a first-person adventure game featuring an open world and puzzle-solving elements. According to the story, you are the last surviving Kazakh in Kazakhstan. The game is developed by Shantobe. Indica is a surreal third-person game that tells the story of a nun who, with the help of the devil, sets out on a journey of self-discovery. The game was developed by Old Meter. The team relocated from Russia to Kazakhstan in 2022, and Indica was released in 2024, which is why I decided to include it on this list. I also want to talk about 2 more projects. Game of Drones lets you control real RC cars remotely from your smartphone over the internet. Specially built tracks allow you to race with friends or compete against players from around the world. The project was created by Game of Drones Limited. The second project is Go Fish. It's a remote fishing service that lets you fish online from your smartphone or PC. You can switch gear and locations, watch the process live, and control everything in real time. Right now, it's all about catching fish, but in the future, they're planning to deliver your catch straight to your door. Well, I think that wraps things up. I tried to gather as much information as possible about video games from Kazakhstan. I might have missed something or made a few mistakes along the way. If so, feel free to let me know in the comments. Thank you, my friends and subscribers, for watching till the end. I'd really appreciate your like and subscription. Take care, and I'll see you soon.